on what the issue is. But so it's okay. Now you know what the problem is. Now, what do you do to solve the problem, and then how do you implement the problem? So we know what the problem is. We're clear on that. Everybody's clear on that. Now our thing is, how do we fix it? How do we fix it? And how do we fix it? He's back on. And how do we fix it from a standpoint of us getting ourselves together? And I think a lot of it is that our history is so. Our history has been hijacked, but our history is just, to me, it's all over the place. You got a lot of different people saying a lot of different things about our history and stuff like that. So to really galvanize to say, okay, who are we? And then when you say who are we, you find out who are we, then you say what do we need to do after we find out who we are? What do you think? All right.
Oh, is that the question to the group?
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Because our history is, you hear a lot of the different things of who we are. You got a lot of the brothers that the Hebrew Israelites. You got a lot of brothers that's this. You got a lot of brothers that's doing this and this and this, and they say, well, this is the truth. This is the truth. This is the truth. I'm the truth. And it's like it's a lot going on.
Well, one of the things that it was a great quote that came out in the 70s. And a lot of the things that's happening in the 70s is currently happening in the 21st century. Mm-hmm. But I'm sure that could be another radio show to discuss.
Sure.
But I forgot what the brother said, so I might be paraphrasing it. Sure. But it said, you must be willing to unlearn, relearn, it's something in that nature, right? Okay. So who's the new illiterate? Growing up, I'm 42 years old. Yeah. Growing up, whoever was considered illiterate was someone who couldn't read. Right. Read or write. That's what they said. But in that quote, and this quote was written in like late 70s, you have to be willing to unlearn, relearn, and execute on today's time, because today's illiterate are people who are unwilling to unlearn. You got to unlearn today's matrix. And if you refuse to be a T-Rex, not to be a T-Rex, get out the matrix, but stay a T-Rex, think everything is the same, you are illiterate. Like right now, like as a business person, if you're not using social media to market your business, right? That's the new medium of marketing. But you believe that, hey, I like to network, I like to talk to people, I like to prospect the old way. You're basically illiterate because you're not learning the new way of doing business. It's the same in history. If you're not seeing how history is right now, and once you find out something great about yourself and you understand this side history, but you continue to do the same thing, you are illiterate. So we are amongst a bunch of illiterate people right now. You don't have no one calling people that. You got a bunch of enablers. You know what I'm saying? So what I do is like I said, when I understand their history, when I understand the history of what's going on right now, it's hidden in plain sight. Right? They tell everyone what's that saying? You want to hide something from someone, put it in the book. Now white supremacy is becoming a movie in social media. We're seeing it with our own eyes, and yet they still, what we have in our head, we are unwilling to unlearn their ways. Now, we're not finna sit up and say, hey, all of them are bad, because we know that's not true. It's good people in all sectors, all races, all genders. You should have the God in you, the discerning spirit in you should know who is good, right? But if you can't figure that out and you understand you amongst evil, then you have to look in the mirror. I'm always going to point to you. Look in the mirror. So when you are seeing this history and what's that saying is, that's a question I ask my son all the time. When he get mad or he mess up a play on the football field or whatnot, and I see him doing something, I say, man, when was the last time your way worked? When was the last time your way worked?
Yeah.
We don't ask that question to us. We still try to do stuff the same way.
Same way.
And I'm done with the excuses. I'm done with we don't know what to do. We're not taught. You got $1 million device in your hand.
Yeah.
You got Google, Wikipedia. You got the public library. You have every resource at the tip of your finger to educate you on something.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, I totally agree. You have all the access that you need, and it's there at your fingertips. But you have to use the resource. You have to understand. You have to know what to look up. So, ladies, what do you take on that?
I definitely agree with what he's saying. I think that we have to remember when you talk about one, oftentimes we actually buy into the negative ideas when it comes to people of color. We kind of buy into it. You have to remember in our history, there was a time in which black people, people of color, what do you want to call it, were imprisoned, they were fined, they were punished for trying to read. So that's one reality that is true about our history. And so the idea that you grow up in a family or a lineage that doesn't necessarily value reading is a real possibility. And then the other part is the accountability of, you said illiteracy. I definitely think our public education system is a huge problem, because there are a lot of poor and working not that poor but can't afford tuition type families who have very little choice outside the public education system, and they're entrusting our public education system to teach our children what they need to know in order to grow, build, and be successful in our culture. And they're also teaching a level of Black inferiority and white supremacy. Those are the things they're teaching between the lines. And so I agree with what you're saying as far as illiteracy, and I also agree with what you're saying as far as us having to go after the knowledge and to unlearn. But I also believe we have to hold our systems accountable for the information that are being taught to our Black and brown children, specifically our Black children. Because when you go to school, which I'm somewhere around your age, but I'm not going to tell you what, I remember to refuse. And don't be guessing either. Don't be trying to guess.
Hold on, let me see.
I'm the elder here, but
but I remember being in high school, and I went to a predominantly white school, and them wanting to show roots and me not wanting to sit in that space. And I was nowhere near as racially aware as I am this day. But I knew how that felt. That felt like I didn't want to sit in this white space and watch the exploitation of Black bodies, the abuse of Black bodies, the trauma to Black bodies. And I knew that I would have been 17, 18 years old when I decided simply not to go to class that day. And I was an IB student. I was one of the good ones. Okay. I was one of the good ones, but I didn't want to go through that. And so I agree with everything that you're saying, but we have to peel that onion back a little bit further and try to figure out the whys of it and then go from there. And I do agree that great unlearn has to happen. In fact, I'm a fan of Rachel Cargill's work, and she has a whole syllabus, a whole teaching of the unlearning of U.S. history. And so I do think that has to be a part of it, but I also think the accountability arm has to come in to where we're not going to continue to send our children into these school systems and in these collegiate environments to where they're teaching something we're going to have to fix later. Let's fix it now so that the education is fair. I mean, it did my body good as a grown woman to hear about Black Wall Street and the burning of Tulsa. It actually did me good to realize just the other day it was the anniversary thereof. So as you watch the targets burned, the police departments burned, let me show you what else burned, okay? And so it's not just Black people in their fury and their rage that riot. You better believe that we learned it from the best of them. So those are conversations that we're not having in real life. And I think it's empowering, though. It's empowering to not vilify, again, the Black experience in such a way that it seems like it's just us that act like this, or we're like this because. The history of our history, the reality of our history, absolutely impacts where we are this day. But I do believe that the unlearning and the relearning has to be a part of the rebirth so that we are just feel more empowered, because a lot of reality of this Black lived experience is a lack of power, a feeling at least feeling as though you don't have the power, or you don't have the intestinal fortitude to change the outcomes.
No doubt. No, absolutely, 100%. Both of you mentioned some books. I want you to mention those books again, because people that are looking at this, I want them to understand the books that you talked about. Now, brother, you talked about Dr. Claude Anderson. One was Powernomics and Black Labor, White Wealth.
Black Labor, White Wealth, and it's another book that folks need to read.
Go ahead.
By Thomas Burrell, called Brainwashed.
Okay. You
have to read Brainwashed, and if I just give you a little synopsis of it, basically he was the top. It was a top advertiser for, I think, Coca-Cola, some Procter & Gamble, one of those companies. And those big companies, once again, in the late 70s, a lot of stuff that we're going through right now, late 70s, those big companies finally looked at African Americans as consumers.
Right.
Finally looked at them as consumers, and he built a plan to target us.
Yeah.
Right, to target us. And when it got to like, I think mid 80s, when he realized the amount of poison he was putting in our community, and that we were just gobbling up, buying everything, right? Wow. What happened was those companies, they doubled down on the black community. So in the white community, if they showed 3 commercials, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. They showed 90 commercials, right? When you listen to the radio show, when the radio show, like today, you can look at your black station right now. They're going to promote payday loans. Yep. They're going to promote anything that's negligent in our community. But turn to the white stations, they're going to talk about home ownership. They're going to talk about anything that promotes them. Or you could just look at some of your channels on cable. If you look at Mad Kramer or those shows, they talk about Rolexes on their on that show, right? Anything of value. If you go to ESPN and these other ones, we still talking goddamn it. I'm sorry, we still talking McDonald's. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So it is right there. But if you don't understand brainwash, you don't understand how advertising works. Yeah. You don't understand why we in such a rush to go get Jordan.
Absolutely.
It ain't we don't get Jordans because we want Jordans. Our mind operating pictures, and we're bombarded with this visual, on a more than any community. That's why our kids right now grow up numb to killings. You think that's by accident they play Grand Theft Auto?
Often,
you know what I'm saying? By accident, and all of a sudden when someone get killed, they don't even cry at funerals no more. Yeah. You think that's by accident? That's by design.
Right. So real quick, Lisa, you talked about the books that interest you. Some of them were what you said by Rachel Carlisle.
Rachel Carlisle. Actually, she has an unlearned community that I'm a part of.
Okay.
And she is a anti-racism activist, but she has a syllabi that she is doing and talks, and it's an amazing online resource that she's created. That's a learning environment that's interactive. Absolutely. So I think she's really great, and I feel like this was part of my rebirth when I came after I got fired and I started doing this work. But Robin DiAngelo's work is very powerful in getting into the minds of an honest white person. Wow. And that was very important for me personally because I didn't get it because I was employed by white folks. I worked with white folks and I didn't understand what was going on in the midst of my termination. So I still think that even though she's a white author, I do think that her work is powerful because she's having honest conversations about white solidarity, about white fragility when it comes to interacting with race relations. And that helped me to understand why my coworkers, I could go to their baby showers, I could go to their housewarmings, I could literally be in the room while they're pushing out the kid, but they will not have a conversation with me about race. Yeah. They do not care if I sit through a 2-week federal trial. They are not calling and they are not showing up. They are not going to come, okay? And I didn't understand that because I'm like, I thought we were friends. Why would you not be in support of me in this when we've gone through everything together? We've gone through childbirth. We've gone through house binds. We've gone to each other's weddings. But in this moment in time, you literally exit stage left. Yeah. And so it was really insightful for me to do. I followed Robin DiAngelo's work, read her books. And I also think that Ta-Nehisi Coates' work, Between the World and Me, is very powerful in regards to speaking to the voice of Black men, understanding the journey that is before them and understanding the fight that has to be honestly won at some level. And so I just think that there are so many resources out there because I do think the level of frustration has come to a head in so many areas of our lives, whether that's the educational system, the public, the criminal justice system. People are simply frustrated. And so I think if anyone who's interested in learning, there's going to be a space to learn. And there's a lot of literature because as they're having these true lived experiences, people are writing and sharing about them. I just think that we have to, as, whitewashed, socialized Black people, stop trying to put up the stop sticks because like what you said, Mr. Beal, earlier, we're really quick to tear down each other. We're really quick to try to illegitimize the Black experience because it ends up being, I'm sorry.
You're all right.
We're really quick to illegitimize the Black lived experience because we don't want to confront the reality of it. And so I think as we work to really be a support to each other. And again, Mr. Bill, what you said about us trying to agree on one or two things. Yeah. I like to go with the notion of no permanent friends and no permanent enemies. We have permanent missions. Let's get after something together. Yeah. And that's why, even though I'm, all the rioting, all the looting, it's heartbreaking. Yeah. And again, there will be more bloodshed before we're through this. But I am behind the idea of giving a voice to the voiceless. I am behind that. So absolutely. Rather than me take the time to pick apart what is going wrong, let's figure out how we can get this right. Let's figure out ways of people who don't necessarily want to be on the front lines. They don't want to protest. They don't want to picket. What can they give? What can they do? Yeah. Where can they enact their own resources to help force another outcome for people of color? Because another reason the law enforcement thing is so offensive is because, again, like I said to you all before, I'm one of the good ones. Remember, I went to college. I went to predominantly white schools. They liked me. Okay, I worked in television news for over 20 years. I worked in stations in Missouri, of course, in Illinois. I worked. I was studied in Georgia. Okay, so they like me. I'm one of the good ones. Yeah. But what's to say that what befall George Floyd won't befall me and mine? Okay, absolutely. So even the good ones, the ones that passed, who want to assimilate well, like I did, like I do, and I can do. Yeah. But what happens when the reality of Tatiana Jefferson befalls me? What happens when I'm in my own house? Yeah. What happens when the reality of Breonna Taylor befalls me? What happens when I'm on my own bed with my own man? Yes. What is this? What is this? Yeah, so even for the Black folks in these organizations, they can't agree on this and this. You've got to agree on this. Yeah. I should be able to lay in my own bed. Yes. She should have been able to be there playing video games with her own nephew. What? Yes. So again, even the good ones, we're not safe either, okay, until we have some type of change. Absolutely. And so my hope is on the back end of this, we'll all understand that none of us are safe until all of us are safe, okay? So you can decide that some of us are not worthy because we're the N-word this, we live in the hood this, we sag our pants, we don't speak articulately. Well, guess what? Even the good ones among us are in jeopardy. Just that. Even the good ones among us.
That's you're right. Just well said. Dr. Naomi Naomi Shepherd, I'm sorry. Dr. Naomi Shepherd, I did last time. Okay. So we talked about health and we got about maybe 4 minutes or so, 3 or 4 minutes into the show. I know you have a business that you're running right now. We'll talk about that. But we'll go ahead and talk about your business, and then right after that, we'll talk about what are we afraid of as Mr. Bill talked about mental health. What have we been so afraid of up until 3 minutes, up until now? What is the fear? So go ahead and talk about your business, and then we'll go from there.
So I come from Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, and my business is shepherdsafehaven.com. I just recently moved here, and I work with Avery's Village in Kansas City, Kansas. Is a boys' home. We're doing some wonderful things there. As a matter of fact, we're hiring for customer care, client care representatives, as well as case managers. So if anybody's interested, please contact 913-890-7111 and tell them Dr. Naomi Shepherd sent you.
Nice.
We're glad to interview. We're doing an open interview for the next few weeks.
Absolutely. So what are we afraid of? Why are we afraid to deal with our mental health situation?
It's just when we previously spoke about this, and this is just the stigma that is out there that we don't talk to people. We keep everything amongst ourselves, and in our household we handle it ourselves. Yeah. And so that's where the problem occurs, is that we have to be okay with being able to talk about it and seeking therapists. I have a lot of people that are experiencing right now during these times, like sleeping disorders, they have anxiety behind these traumas that are occurring, and to be okay with being able to talk with someone and someone that can relate to you. So there are therapists that you can reach out to, that you can just talk it out, because what I wrote down on research is things we can do about racism, okay? So make yourself aware that it exists, like Mr. Beal stated. Try to have forums on how other people are viewing it. Like sit down and talk. What are their fears is really what my concern is, because our fears is, of course, I have 3 sons and I wouldn't want anything to happen to them. One is in Japan. I just told him today, I'm glad you're in Japan. Stay there, but their fears, that's what we need to find out. Let's sit down and talk about what are these fears that you have about us, so we can come to an understanding.
Real quick, we got about maybe 45 seconds. Go ahead and talk. How can people reach out to everybody here? How do we
I can be contacted through Winning Truths. It's www.winningtruths.com. I'm again a diversity, inclusion, anti-racism consultant. So it is my whole mission is to help normalize this conversation about race relations and help move the conversation forward so that we can all have a better place to exist.
There it is, Dr. Shepherd.
Yes.
Once
again, shepherdsafehaven.com. And Avery's Village, 913-890-7111. We're currently hiring. We need some people that have compassion and love to offer to these youth.
Brother Bill, how can we get you, brother?
You can reach me, man, on Facebook. You can reach me on LinkedIn, Corey Bill Sr. on LinkedIn. You can follow me on Instagram. I am Corey Bill Sr.
There it is.
You can email me at Corey, CORYSR, Corey Senior at CoreyInsurance.com. That's CORY
Righteous.
INSURAS. Or you can shoot me a text. This is my business line, 615.
That's it for the show. We are flat out.
5345.
Hey, listen, thank y'all so much for tuning in. This has been Street Therapy, your man CJ. Thank you all for having this conversation. We'll be back.
Thank you for having us.
I appreciate it. Thank you.